As tens of thousands of students prepare for the exams that will shape their lives, we can reveal tonight how a supervisor at a leading examination board has been suspended after uncovering a catalogue of errors in the marking of last year's papers. But David Leach, who works for the Oxford, Cambridge and RSA exam board, was then ordered to stop checking results and notify only those schools that had asked for a remark. Undeterred, he took the extraordinary step of contacting the schools himself to blow the whistle. Our social affairs editor Jackie Long has this exclusive report.
Exam season. The stakes could not be higher. For these students in Camberwell and others across the country, the pressure's on to get it right. But what happens when the people marking the exams get it wrong? Trusting the examiners is fundamental to making sure the system works, so students can be confident they get the grade they deserve. But an investigation by Channel 4 News suggests that trust is sometimes misplaced.
We've seen evidence of careless, sloppy marking, where students may well have ended up with entirely the wrong grade, all because markers are making the simplest of mistakes. And we've learned from one senior exam board supervisor that in one case, those in charge seemed willing to turn a blind eye, even when they knew the student was being robbed of a mark they'd earned. Take a look at these exam papers from last summer. Here, they show in black and white the basic errors being made by the markers.
Here, the examiner got their own sums wrong, ending with a mark of 62, when the correct score is 66. In this paper, a mark of 28 in the body of the script was transferred to the front page as 25. This candidate got lucky. The examiner added marks of 32 and 36, but instead of getting 68, somehow came up with 78. Poring over exam scripts during a routine clerical check requested by schools, Senior Supervisor David Leach found mistakes in the overall scores of 100 papers from the Oxford, Cambridge and RSA Exam Board, or OCR. Alarmed by what he found, he instructed his team to go over other papers by the same markers and found hundreds more papers with errors. When he told his bosses here at OCR's headquarters in Cambridge, he was ordered to stop the checks and inform only those schools which had specifically asked for a remark. Unhappy, he took his findings to the regulator, Ofqual. It told us today it asked the OCR examining board to investigate further and correct any weaknesses in their system. Mr. Leach, who wasn't able to speak on camera, identified dozens of papers where the marking error is so great it potentially meant a pupil being given the wrong grade. So he then took an extraordinary step. Bypassing his bosses, he sent an email to 30 schools alerting them to the mistakes. The email highlights
clerical errors in the marking of scripts, thereby resulting in incorrect results being issued. OCR was notified of the problem by my team. OCR's reaction was to force my team to discontinue the checks.
Mr. Leach went on to advise them to contact senior figures at OCR or Ofqual directly.
Yesterday, David Leach was suspended, but the mistakes he's identified raise important questions about the entire system, not least if some markers can't be trusted to get this most basic part of their work right. How well are they doing on the rest of it? Exam insiders we've spoken to describe a process where errors seem almost inevitable.
Pete's a teacher who will be marking A-level papers this summer.
If you want to earn a professional wage, which I would define that as being £20 per hour or more, you're probably looking at marking about 8 scripts per hour or more. Once you factor in all of the time you spend standardising, all of the time you spend entering the marks into the database, you're probably looking at marking about 8 scripts per hour, and that isn't really enough time to actually give students a fair deal, especially if you're an inexperienced examiner. I can't guarantee in 10 minutes that I'm actually giving them a fair deal.
And Malcolm St John Smith marked music A-level papers for 8 years until 2010. He says he gave up because of the pressure on markers to work too quickly.
I don't think the exam boards do understand the pressure. I think they think that you can do these things without, without any particular consideration for the length of time it takes. Where mistakes happen, I don't think the administrative mechanism is sufficient to always spot them. The pupils are losing out. They're bound to lose out if they're not getting the grades that they deserve and have been awarded.
Here at Magdalen College School in Oxford, there's not much confidence in the system. Students here are preparing for this year's English AS level. Last summer's GCSE results taught them some harsh lessons. Callum was one of 23 students whose papers were returned for remarking. All but one came back with a higher score. In his case, it went up by a staggering 25%.
Clearly it had been a mistake because apparently a whole question had been missed out, or the equivalent of, which I was quite shocked by.
Magdalen is the highest performing school in the UK for GCSE results. The head uses several different exam boards, but says demanding remarks has become routine.
The staff come in and they say, we're not happy with this marking, and I say, we all know what we're talking about. We're talking about a dodgy exam board. Off we go. Let's go for the remark.
But remarks cost money, anything from £23 to £60 a paper. We've estimated the country's three biggest exam boards, OCR, AQA and EdExcel, charged a total of £5.5 million for remarking their own papers last year. Many of those result in no change to the grade. But it's an opportunity many state schools like Sacred Heart in South London can't afford to take up.
I'd like to be able to say money is no object. If a child is close enough to one of the grade boundaries, let's have a go. Let them check it. You know, let's see if we can push that child's grade a little bit higher. Unfortunately, I can't say that because money is an issue.
Tonight, the OCR examining board apologised unreservedly for the unacceptable mistakes made in papers last summer. It said the contracts of 4 of their examiners had been terminated. The board is now examining other papers believed to have errors in them and will change grades if necessary.
Jackie Long reporting. Well, joining us now, Fiona Pethick, the Director of Regulation at the Exam Board regulator Ofqual. Fiona Pethick, clearly there has been a breakdown of quality control here. And of course, the careers and lives of many children are at stake. What have you done about it?
Well, I think you're right to say there is something has gone wrong here, and as you've just reported, OCR has accepted responsibility. As Ofqual, as the regulator, it's our job to find things that go wrong and to ensure that they are fixed, and this is what we've been doing. We were aware of the problems when they first came to light last summer. We had made sure OCR did extended checks of scripts where there were problems were likely to be found, and where problems indeed were found, we made sure that the grades were corrected. And then we made them look at their systems, and we made them check that their quality assurance systems were fit for purpose. And they found they needed to make improvements, and those improvements were made and were put in place in time for the January series.
Well, let me just,
now, what's come to light...
pause you there, because you say you got them to go back and check where clearly markers had fallen down, but are you satisfied that you managed to check every one of these? Because of course, as soon as the whistleblower tried to go further and do that himself, he found himself in trouble and stopped by the board. How do you know that your own quality control wasn't also likewise unable to get to all the papers that were affected?
I think you've got to be clear, this is OCR's quality control. They are responsible, and as they've said today, they're taking responsibility for the issue, and they know there are things that could have happened.
Yes, but you as the regulator are supposed to ensure that there has been a full delivery of a proper examination system. And the truth of the matter here is that OCR fell down. They've admitted that. The question I have for you tonight is, are you personally satisfied that every child that was affected by these failures has had their correct mark?
No, I'm not satisfied yet, and that's why we'll be continuing to look into this matter. And if we find OCR to be negligent, we'll take action. But I would say that a lot of checking went on last year, and the checks were directed where problems were most likely to be found.
This means that there are young people who should have gone to universities or to particular colleges who were deprived of that opportunity because they got the wrong grades marked. I mean, this is an appalling situation.
I think we have to keep this in proportion. There were 5 million scripts at OCR. There are 15 million scripts nationally every summer. It is really important that every pupil gets, as you are saying, the right mark, the mark that they deserve for the effort they put in.
Could I pick you up on a glaring inequality here? The private school, Magdalen College School, was able to afford to pay for great chunks of papers to go through to be checked. As you heard, 23 in one case went forward and 22 had to be marked up, one of them by 25%. But the poorer schools, the state schools that don't have that money, they have to leave it to the parents, and many parents can't afford to challenge the mark their child got. That's a gross inequality.
We've been listening to teachers, and we know they have concerns about the quality of marking, and that's why we're announcing, when we put out our corporate plan tomorrow, a programme of work to look at marking, to look at what work goes well and what could go better, and where improvements are necessary, we will make sure they're put in place.
Were you anyway going to do it tomorrow, or is that because you're on tonight?
That has been planned for tomorrow for some time. Our corporate plan does not get written overnight. It has been prepared, and is to be published tomorrow. We have been listening to teachers for months, and we understand there are concerns, but these scripts, these 15 million scripts every summer, are marked by and large by teachers.
Fiona Pethick,
the vast majority.
We must leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for joining us. And for more on that story, including which subjects are most affected and more testimony from disadvantaged students, go to our website, channel4.com/news. Kathy.
Thanks, John.